Hello, I'm Olly and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today the clock is ticking on my Read What You Own challenge. It's my January TBR. So why is the clock ticking? The clock is ticking because I said when I started my Read What You Own challenge, which is a challenge where I'm reading 100 books I already own before I can buy any new ones. So when I started it at the beginning of November, I said I wanted to finish it in January. So I need to have read 100 books by the end of January. I'm currently at 67. And I'm filming this on the 26th of December. So that kind of feels achievable. But there's some books I particularly want to read in. January, which are quite long, and that's making me question whether I'm going to manage to do it or not. So I'll talk about those books in a minute. The other factor, the other ticking time bomb, if you like, is the fact that Andrew from It Came From the Page and Kelsey from Slime and Slashes have asked me to do a buddy read with them and then talk about the book in a live stream. That buddy read needs to be done really by the end of January, and I don't own the book. So I need to have read the 100 books before I can buy that book to take part in that buddy read. So I feel like I'm up against it a bit. I quite enjoy it. I'm one of those people who, like, when I was at university, would leave my assignments till the night before and, manage to get them done. So I quite enjoy that kind of pressure, but it definitely feels like there's some pressure. So I'm filming this on the 26th of December, as I say. So I've got, if I stick to my TBR for January and don't manage to read any more than that, and I'm having to read a book every other day to achieve this TBR already, then that means I need to read 18 books between now and the end of the year, the end of December, in order to do that Read What You Own challenge by the end of January. So yeah, we shall see. I do have a few short things I could read, but I don't know if I'll get through 18. Even though I'm off work, I don't think I'll get through 18 books in a few days. Anyway, enough rambling. Let me talk about my TBR. So let's start with the Kindle Cobo cleanup event, which I'm one of the co-hosts for, which is taking part in January, which is kind of linked to the Read What You Own challenge, but where you read books from your Kindle or Cobo, your e-reader that maybe you've had hanging around on there for longer than you should have. And obviously the danger with buying ebooks is they're not visible, they don't take up space, so you can kind of forget about them. So we've got a number of different prompts for that reading event. So let me talk to you about the books I'm going to read for each of those prompts. So first prompt is the oldest book that you've got on your Kindle, so the book you've had for longest. So for me, it wasn't actually. I did have one that I'd had longer, but I really don't want to read that. So the one I'm going to read is Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe, which is a book I do want to read anyway. So that's the book I've had for longest on my Kindle. Next prompt then is the newest book that you've got on your Kindle. So for me, that is a collection of Commando comics called Commandos versus Zombies. So that should be a nice quick read. But yeah, looking forward to reading that. Next prompt is to start or continue a series. So I'm actually doing both. So I'm going to restart a series that I started years ago and didn't continue with, but which I really enjoyed. And I've read another book by this author recently, which I thought was fantastic. So it really made me want to go back and read the series. So the series is the Charlie Parker series by the author John Connolly. So a series of detective stories that get kind of increasingly kind of supernatural, I think, as they go on. And the first of those is called Every Dead Thing. So I have read that before, but like 20 years ago. So really looking forward to reading that again. Next prompt is But It Was Free. So books you've got on your Kindle just because they were free, of which I have many, including Robinson Crusoe. That will be one of those. So the one I'm going to read for this is Malibu Burning by Lee Goldberg. So Lee Goldberg is a really fun crime writer. I always enjoy his books. This is a fairly new one of his that was free in one of those Prime Reads things where you get, if you're a Prime subscriber, you get a free Kindle book every month. So yeah, looking forward to this. He writes like enjoyable police procedural type books. Next one is a book that is a new to you author. So for this one, as I said and I have talked about some of these books in the announcement video I did for the Kindle Cobo event. But the one I'm going to read for this is The Greatest Enemy by Douglas Reeman. So Douglas Reeman is a British writer of kind of naval adventure type books, both Napoleonic era and kind of Second World War and more modern than that. My grandfather was a great fan of Douglas Reeman, and Alexander Kent, which is another name the author publishes under, was a really big fan of his books. So I thought I would give one a try. I've got like 5 or 6 of them on my Kindle. So the one I'm going to read is called The Greatest Enemy, and this is actually a relatively modern one. So this is set in 1970, and it's about a British warship going up against drug smugglers in like Thailand or somewhere like that, by the sound of it. Okay, next prompt then is, why did you buy this? So I have many books on my Kindle that I got cheap, like got in 99p deals. The one I'm going to read for this, because I have been enjoying celebrity memoirs recently, so the one I'm going to read is Paris, the Memoir by Paris Hilton, which is one I got in a 99p deal. Next prompt then is to read a book by a BookTube author. So I've had this one for a while. This is one of the books that's really bumping up the page count because it's a big fantasy book. So I've said on the channel before, I'm not necessarily a big fan of fantasy, but so many people have said such great things about this book, and it's by a BookTube author, so I do really want to read it. So the book is The Forgetting Moon, the first book in the 5 Warrior Angels series by Brian Lee Durfee, but it is 750 pages and it's fantasy, so we'll see how I get on. If there's a book I might DNF this month, I think it might be this one, just because of the length and because of the fact it's fantasy. But as I say, everyone raves about this book, so hopefully I'll have a good time with it. Next prompt then is clean up and organise, which you can use to just clean up and organise your books into like categories and things like that on your e-reader. But I'm actually going to read a book that completes not a series for me, but it will mean I've read all of the books by this author. So that feels like a kind of clean-up exercise. So the book is My Darkest Prayer, and the author is S.A. Cosby. So this was actually his first book. I've read his subsequent 3 books, but I haven't read this one yet. So I'm really looking forward to that. A crime novel. He's a fantastic crime writer, S.A. Cosby. I really like his stuff. Next prompt then is Blame It on BookTube. So for this one, I'm going to read Man, F This House by Brian Asman. Which everyone says is a really fun, kind of slightly humorous haunted house story. So that is all of the prompts for the Kindle Cobo cleanup event. So let's go on to other things then. So firstly, for my Patreon book club this month, another long book. This is over 600 pages, so we're going to be reading this month The Hellfire Club by Peter Straub. So Peter Straub is an author. I really enjoyed the books of his I've read. I read quite a few of his books back in my kind of teens and 20s, but haven't read that much by him recently. In fact, I think the only thing I've read by him recently was The Black House, which he co-wrote with Stephen King, which I didn't particularly enjoy. But The Hellfire Club is supposed to be really good, and he is generally a very reliable horror author, maybe slightly more literary than someone like King. I'd compare him more to someone like Dan Simmons. So anyway, we are reading for my Patreon book club The Hellfire Club by him this month in January. So yeah, looking forward to that. So moving on to buddy reads then. So continuing my read through of Patricia Highsmith with Anne from the Shadowland novella. So the next one of those is the second book in the Ripley ad, which is Ripley Underground. So I'm quite looking forward to that because I really liked The Talented Mr. Ripley. Anne is a bit more anxious about it, I think, because apparently Patricia Highsmith didn't want to write any more Ripley books, and her publisher persuaded her to. So it was kind of written under duress to an extent, which I don't mind because that for me makes it kind of trashy, and therefore something I will enjoy. So yeah, looking forward to Ripley Underground. Another buddy read then, so I'm doing a couple of buddy reads with patrons this month. So one of those I'm doing with Leanna, and we are going to be reading The Melting by Lize Spit, which is one of the books on my Disturbing Books project list. So something I need to read. Again, this is quite long. This is over 400 pages and quite literary as well, so that might be a bit of a slow read for me. Next up, another patron buddy read. So I'm reading with Randy, from the channel The Literate Texan. We're reading Death and the Conjuror by Tom Mead, which sounds like a really fun kind of locked room mystery style thing, so looking forward to that. And then for my Stephen King project, where I'm reading the Stephen King books I haven't read yet, the next one of those is Song of Susannah, the sixth book? Yeah, the sixth book in the Dark Tower series. So not as long as some of the books in the Dark Tower series, fortunately. This is 400 odd pages. So yeah, I had mixed feelings about the last Dark Tower book, Wolves of the Calla, which I read recently. But one of my reservations with that book was it was just too long. So the fact that this one's a bit shorter, hopefully, is a good sign. Next then, so I'm nearly at the end. So Kelsey from Slime and Slashes is doing a year of Laymon this year in 2024, where she's reading a Richard Laymon book every month, and you're invited to take part. So I'm going to do that. I have a troubled relationship with Richard Laymon in that I have really enjoyed his books in the past, and they're always an easy read, but equally he's massively problematic in many ways. So we shall see. So anyway, for the first month of the year of Laymon, you can choose any Laymon book you want. So this is one I had on my shelves. I can't remember if I've read this. I'm pretty sure I have, because I definitely read most of his books in my teens and 20s. But I haven't read it since then. So this is No Sanctuary, which is by the looks of it, a kind of slasher type one. So fairly typical Laymon, I suspect. And then finally the book I mentioned at the start, the one that I'm doing the buddy read of with Kelsey and Andrew, is Maynard's House by Herman Raucher, which I hadn't heard of, but which is kind of a bit of a paperback from hell by the sound of it. So about a Vietnam vet and a kind of haunting and things like that, written in 1980. So yeah, looking forward to that, but I don't own it yet. So I need to read all the books I've talked about, plus another 18 between now and when I can buy Maynard's House. So we will see if I do that. It may be a slightly more anxious month of reading for me than I usually have. But yeah, hopefully I will get that Read What You Own challenge completed in January. We'll read all of these books, and hopefully I will have time in January for a few more things as well. But yeah, I'm going to try and get as much under my belt between now and the end of the year as I can. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you've read any of the books I talked about. Let me know if you're taking part in any of the reading events I talked about. And as always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.